Good evening. Welcome to the Government News Brief for Wednesday, April 26, 2017. In the news this evening, Guyana improves ranking on Human Development Report. Guyana is currently overseeing the drafting of CARICOM specification on white and brown sugar, and Guyana is one of several participating countries involved in the Regional Tourism and Health Program. These and other stories when the news returns. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. I am Tiffany Rogers. Here are the details. Guyana's improved ranking on the United Nations Human Development Report, HDR, should be a clarion reminder to continue working to improve and sustain the developments achieved, Minister of Finance Winston Jordan says. Here's more. The 2016 United Nations Development Programme's HDR was launched today at the University of Guyana Turkine campus. Guyana has maintained its Human Development Index value of 0.638 for the last 2 years, ranking 127 out of 188 countries. The Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, says this achievement is nothing to shout about, but notes the government is working collectively towards continued national development.
Our administration has, from the inception, recognized the need to approach national development challenges in a holistic manner. We have increased allocations to the social sector, particularly health and education. We have undertaken sweeping tax reforms. We have increased real wages, including raising incomes by 38%, adjusting the income tax threshold by a minimum 20%, increased old age pensions and social assistance. We are passionate in our resolve to bridge the development divide between the coast and the hinterland.
The HDR report finds that although average human development improved significantly across all regions from 1990 to 2015, 1 in 3 persons continue to live in low levels of human development, as measured by the Human Development Index. Interim UNDP country representative Shabna Malik says the 2016 HDR focuses on how human development can be ensured for everyone now and in the future.
The Human Development Report is, of course, not all about challenges. It has several hopeful notes. The report declares that human development for everyone is attainable. We can build on what we can achieve. We can explore new possibilities, and we can attain what once seemed unattainable. We have every reason to hope that transformations in human development is possible, and what seem to be challenges today can be overcome tomorrow. The world has the resources and the knowledge to do that.
The 2016 Human Development Report was released on March 21, 2017 in Stockholm and explores who has been left behind in human development progress and why. For the Government News Brief, Tiffany Rogers. Guyana, in collaboration with the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, has launched a public-private partnership program aimed at protecting the health and well-being of visitors and locals. Delon Sanko has the details.
This is a part of a regional tourism and health project jointly funded by a grant from the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, to promote sustainable and profitable tourism in the Caribbean. Speaking at the launch of the program at the Humana Yana, Minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Karen Cummins, says that the ministry fully supports the initiative.
I am indeed delighted by the collectivity of this effort, for it is becoming increasingly evident that a pooling of resources, expertise, and potential, such as this august body possesses, is more effective and dynamic to chart the way forward than unilateral efforts. It is essential to note that this tourism and health synergy is aimed at making our tourism industry economically viable as we seek to match the regional and international standards of hotel service and hospitality.
Guyana is one of the several participating countries involved in the Regional Tourism and Health Program. The program aims to provide cost-effective and quality health, food safety, and environmental sanitation solutions to health, safety, and environmental sanitation threats impacting sustainable tourism in the Caribbean. CARPHA's Executive Director, Dr. James Ospedales, says the genesis of the program lies in the fact that the health of the Caribbean economies is closely related to the health of its tourism industry.
Travel and tourism is the business of the Caribbean, and we are the most tourism-dependent region in the world. with over 50 million arrivals, cruise and international arrivals. But the industry is vulnerable to a range of health and environment threats. That's the bad news. The good news is that there are solutions through systems of information, monitoring, training, education, standards, and that is what this program brings.
Through an integrated approach of combining surveillance, training, and standards, some key benefits of the project will be fewer outbreaks and other negative public health events occurring in the tourism industry. The program will also promote a healthier, safe, more reputable tourism product for the global market. The Caribbean is the most tourism-dependent region in the world, and therefore threats to the industry will reduce tourist arrival, which in turn will impact those whose livelihood depends on the sector. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
Old sugar standards are currently being reviewed and consultations held on the new drafts. Delicia Haynes reports.
The Guyana National Bureau of Standards, GNBS, today engaged with key stakeholders in the revision of the national sugar standards. Standards in any country facilitates trade, ensuring quality commodities are produced. Guyana is currently overseeing the drafting of the CARICOM specification on white and brown sugar. Technical Officer of the GNBS, Andrea Mendonza, says the drafting of these standards will see the region embracing an improved sugar standard.
Regional body had agreed to have the standards revised. Now, initially there were 3 of them, one for brown, one for white sugar, and there was the method of analysis and sampling standard. However, a project team, regional project team, was put together, spearheaded by Guyana, tasked with revising these documents.
Local stakeholders included in today's consultations were representatives from the Guyana Sugar Corporation, Gaisuku, Demerara Distillers Limited, DDL, and De Geers Industries and Holdings, Banks, DIH.
Thus far, it's been a really enlightening session, and there have been recommendations for improvement on the sugar quality throughout CARICOM. Some of our recommendations are based on the insoluble solids and on the moisture or loss on drying content.
I think this is indeed a very good move that we're moving towards putting standards in place from a CARICOM perspective, from a national perspective. It would definitely ensure that we have a good quality going forward.
The updated standards will provide quality assurances for both white and brown sugars with all technological factors taken into consideration.
There has been a lot change in technology, scientific evidence, the way in which we do things. And so the need was arise that we should have the standards revised.
Comments and recommendations gathered from today's consultation will be forwarded to the regional committee and reviewed along with other recommendations from other member states. This will facilitate the speedy compilation and implementation of the CARICOM sugar specification standards. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
The Ministry of Social Protection, Sexual and Domestic Violence Unit is pushing to have the Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Acts reviewed for better handling of sexual offences and domestic violence cases. Details in this Renetta LaFleur report.
Manager of the Sexual and Domestic Violence Unit of the Ministry of Social Protection, Akila Dore, says the aim is to have the act more broad-based and concrete so that domestic violence will be taken more seriously in Guyana.
We're really hoping that once we have the revised acts in place that provides the instrumentation, that provides the offenses, the severity of offenses, we're really hoping that that can deter perpetrators. We're really hoping that families, when from the time they recognize that things are not going too well, that they can be bold enough to come forward and seek that sort of support rather than waiting until it escalates to that level.
The Sexual and Domestic Violence Manager explains that the review is necessary since several sexual offences and domestic violence cases are not properly handled. The review will commence shortly, Doris notes.
We recognize here at the unit that there has been several gaps within our current legislations as it relates to the Domestic Violence Act and the Sexual Offences Act. And this is an area that we would be embarking upon to facilitate the review. Very soon we will be identifying a consultant whom will help us to revise the act, where we intend to have stakeholder-wide consultations across the country.
Additionally, the month of April is nationally recognized as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Doris points out that from April 24 to April 30, the unit will be intensifying efforts to raise awareness to further educate the public on the dangers of sexual offenses.
We recognize that we need to intensify our efforts in this area. We recognize that we need to increase awareness in the area. And we would like to know what's been going on in the area. And it comes right back to the data that we've been collecting. All right, so we have embarked on a week of activities where we will be interacting with the public through various forms of modern media.
The Sexual and Domestic Violence Unit of the Ministry of Social Protection is primarily responsible for ensuring and advocating for the creation and development of policies and programs to address sexual and domestic violence in Guyana. Renetta LaFleur for the Government News Brief.
The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, is continuing its technical support to the government of Guyana in efforts to resuscitate the local dairy industry. Details from Delicia Haynes.
The FAO, in collaboration with the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, GLDA, has engaged with private farmers as well as those attached to government agencies to develop the local dairy sector. Consultant to the FAO on livestock development, Dr. Paul Jennings says that to ensure that the sector is developed and maintained, all stakeholders must be fairly informed of the possible benefits.
The issue with dairy development is that investment in dairy farming in particular, right, has a sort of gestation period of about 7 years, right? So, unfortunately, none of our governments in the region have a guaranteed lifespan of 7 years. So it is the issue of whether an investment taken today will survive a change in government and so on. So it really requires a sort of national consensus.
Minister of Agriculture Noel Holder has been advocating for the resuscitation of the dairy industry. The minister says milk was the top imported food in 2015 at a cost of US $27 million. Over the last 5 years, there has been a 55% increase in the volume of milk and milk products imported into Guyana. Milk imports in 2015 were recorded at approximately 10 million kilograms.
The rationale for the study, perhaps emanates from some commitments given by the still then new Minister of Agriculture as the justification for a revitalization of the indigenous dairy sector, which had declined in terms of its claim on the market from about 33% during the 1990s to well below 10% currently.
The local dairy industry had been stymied due to the absence of adequate milk processing facilities. The government will construct a modern milk processing plant. This will aid in producing fresh milk, butter, cheese, and other dairy products. There will also be coordinated milk collection with the establishment of cooling stations at strategic locations countrywide. These interventions, along with the technical support provided by FAO, are projected to realize a 10% growth in the dairy sector in 2017. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Tiffany Rojas. Have a great evening.